Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to adopt the protocol that was laid out by the acting Chief Registrar. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We gather today to pay tribute to a remarkable and distinguished individual whose dedication to justice and unwavering commitment to the rule of law has left an indelible mark on our legal system and beyond. His life is an inspiring story and a reflection of authenticity, a man who was true to himself, resilience, hard work, and courage. From the humble origins in Kigezi to an academic journey that took him across the country, then abroad, and to his illustrious career as a lecturer of law, a politician, a legislator, a prolific author, and a justice of the Supreme Court of Uganda, his contribution to our nation will never be forgotten. He wore several hats, and he wore them so well. And it seemed as if he set his mind to do something, then there was nothing that he could not do. For most of the judges of the High Court and judicial officers in courts subordinate thereto, and probably to many of us in the room, and has been actually stated by His Lordship Ngoda Ntende, we first met him through his books. My own first introduction to the late Justice Professor Kanyeihamba was through his book on constitutional law, which was an essential guide for all of us in law school and helped us understand Uganda's constitutional development and the legal framework under which we work. In another of his literary works titled The Blessings and Joy of Being Who You Are, we get a glimpse into his mind, the mind of this great man from Kigezi, and a nuanced perspective of his experiences, an insight into who he was and what he stood for. And we are very privileged that he shared his story in writing and will therefore continue to inspire and encourage us for generations to come. Not many of us had the opportunity to interact closely with him, and I have not had the opportunity to read his second autobiography. But what was so humbling when I read the first autobiography was that when he wrote about his appointment to the highest bench in the land, regardless of the wisdom, his academic credentials, he spoke about how he had to deliberately and intentionally learn how to be a good judge and adjudicate fairly. He admits that for all his knowledge, he had to be tutored in judgment writing, and that he often asked his peers to review his works and critique them for writing style and for structure. He admits, again in his book, that the experience of other colleagues with varied expertise on the bench was very helpful to him. And you could see a man who, from the outset, understood his role in spearheading the development of jurisprudence in the country when he was appointed to the highest bench in the land. I think the lesson we can draw from that is to be intentional about our service as judicial officers, work hard, and refine the skills needed to perform this honorable duty with diligence, with integrity, and also with courage. In many of his decisions, he chose principle over conscience, over convenience, and he chose duty over comfort. And his decision to remain on the bench in some of the cases, regardless of intense pressure for him to recuse himself, demonstrated his confidence in the principles of judicial independence and the courage that each judge should possess. He further demonstrated through his decisions that justice was not about popular opinion or political expedience, that it was about upholding the law with integrity and a firm resolve to make decisions based solely on the law, even if it meant standing alone. And I'm sure many of us have read his dissenting judgments. He was not afraid to stand alone for as long as he stood on principle. My only interaction with him, regrettably, because I would have loved to have known him better, was the pleasure, sometimes the pain, sometimes the humiliation, of appearing before him while he was at the Supreme Court, while I was at the bar. And I learned quickly that you could not appear before a panel on which he sat unprepared. The appearances that were scheduled before him were started by or preceded by sleepless nights spent preparing for oral submissions, because for some reason he loved the oral submissions. Ensuring that one had the mental dexterity to respond to any legal and factual questions that could be thrown at you at any time. And woe unto you if you appeared late, if you were shabby, if you were unprepared with the facts of your case, if you had presented poorly drafted documents. But most seriously, if you demonstrated a poor grasp of the law or an understanding of it, or a lack of understanding of it. In those instances, then you could never say that you would have a pleasant time before him. And that's my memory of the great man that we pay a tribute to this afternoon. Undoubtedly, he shaped our reasoning, our ability to think on our feet, and I believe that many of us are better judges because he stood, because he taught, because he mentored, and he made sound rulings on which we stand today. Every judge has their own philosophy when it comes to adjudication, and this is usually developed over the years, and usually it reflects the personal history, the values of the individual, and their approach to complicated legal questions. I want to submit that the late brand was living constitutionalism and judicial activism, because he actively shaped the law and the policy in our land. So we honor him today as we recognize that great legal minds never die. They live on in their writings, and as judges, they live on in their judgments, and therefore they continue to influence future generations. So his influence continues in every constitutional principle we apply, in every case we analyze with the rigor he demanded, and in every moment that we choose principle over pressure. To his beloved family, we extend our deepest condolences, and we pray for God's healing and his comfort. Be assured that his commitment to justice lives on in the lives that he shaped. I take the opportunity to thank the Honorable the Chief Justice for convening this special session, which holds deep significance for all of us. Lastly, Professor Justice George Kanyeihamba, we honor you today with gratitude, with the gratitude of those whose minds and careers you have shaped, and may your contribution to Uganda's legal system be remembered and continue to inspire future generations of judicial officers. May your soul rest in eternal peace, for God and my country.